Welcome to this first opinion veterinary ultrasound case. This case was a border collie who was 8 years old, male-neutered, with a history of diarrhea. So on this ultrasound scan, we can see the spleen at the top of the image. So we've got the cranial part of the abdomen here, we've got stomach, and then we've got spleen at the top here. And we can see the splenic head, and here we've got the splenic body with this mass in it. So this mass is heterogeneous and quite large, and we can also see another mass here, which is intra-abdominal. It's not actually connected to the spleen. The reason there's so much movement is because the dog was panting, so that can be a real obstruction to ultrasound, and ideally we would sedate a dog that was panting, because this is an indication of stress and discomfort, but this dog was quite unwell, and the owners were very nervous and didn't want to have the animal sedated, so we were doing a less than optimal ultrasound scan, but still getting useful information. So here's a still image of that splenic mass. So we can see the mass here, and we can see normal spleen in this area here. So this mass is heterogeneous, so it's not just purely hypoechoic or hyperechoic. There's a mixture of echogenicities within it, and it's quite large. So this scale goes down to 7.2 centimeters, and we can see that it's taking up a large portion of the screen there. So going back to another moving image, we can see this one mass on the spleen, and then a very similar looking mass in caudal to it, but not attached to the spleen. So here's that other mass there, and then the splenic mass. So the splenic mass here clearly attached to the spleen, and the mass caudal to it that's not attached to the spleen, but looks very similar. So here we can see that mass on the spleen is measuring at just under 4.5 centimeters. So quite a large mass for this spleen. Now we're just looking at this mass that's caudal in the abdomen. So you can see it's got a very similar echogenicity. I would be concerned that this is a metastases, that these two masses are linked. If we've just got the one mass in the spleen, then there's a very long differential diagnosis list, but having a separate mass in the abdomen does make it likely that these two masses are related. And again, just looking at that mass there. Here we've got the kidney for proportion. You can see how enormous this abdominal mass is. So in this case, we found one large heterogeneous mass in the spleen and one smaller mass in the spleen also. And separately to that, we found a large abdominal mass, potentially a lymph node in the abdomen. We found a small amount of sludge in the gallbladder as well, an incidental finding. This dog went on to have a splenectomy and chemotherapy for lymphoma, and a recent follow-up scan, there was nothing abnormal detected, so it appears to have been curative.